Hello, class 8th. So, we are going to study uh, the new chapter, chapter number 12. The name of chapter is friction. Yes. So, kids, in this chapter, we will study what is actually meaning of friction, different examples, and which factor affect on the friction, and we will also see some advantages, causes of friction, disadvantages, and the most important point, because friction is a force. And for your kind information, let me tell you that there are different type of friction. Yes, isn't it amazing that there are different type of friction? So we will see that how is it useful, how is it undesirable, means not useful, when will the how can we increase the friction, how and what is actually the main friction. We will the fluid friction. This we will also study about the fluid friction. Okay, so these all topic we will study. So kids, have you ever thought have you ever thought that when you apply the brake, have you ever thought that when you apply the brake, how does the car stop automatically? So, how does the car stop automatically when you apply brake? Or have you ever thought that when you riding a bicycle in the rough surface, on the smooth surface, suppose you are riding the bicycle on the road, suppose you are riding the bicycle on the road, you can easily ride. But if you ride the same bicycle in the soil, you feel difficulty. Yes, you will not be able to easily ride the bicycle. Why? What is the reason? So there are some reason why can you easily walk, have you ever thought? But why are we not able to walk on the rough surface easily, and why do we slip on smooth surface? Yes, have you ever thought that why do we slip on a smooth surface? So we will try to find the answer of all these questions. Okay, we will try to find the answer of all these questions. So without wasting time, first of all, let's see the introduction. Let's move on the next point. Okay, so what is friction? Yes, what is friction? Actually, friction is a force which act between two surfaces. Yes, friction is a force which actually act between two surfaces. Yes, and actually it try to stop the motion. Yes, it act between two relatively surface, means the surface should be in contact with each other. The surface should be in contact with each other. So I can say friction is a force which oppose the motion between two relative surface. Friction is a force which oppose the motion between two relative surface. Yes. And uh, as you can see on the screen, the definition is written: force of a friction is the force which oppose the motion of an object over a surface. Yes, when two surfaces are relatively moving, when they are in contact, that time the friction force apply. Okay, so the force of friction act between the object and the surface. Yes, to the surface of the object and the another surface. Yes. Mm. Between both, this force apply, and for your kind information, let me tell you, friction force always apply in opposite direction. Yes, friction force always apply in opposite direction. If the, for example, when the car is moving forward, that time the force of friction will apply backside. Yes, so as you can see the example, suppose you have a ball and you roll the ball. When the ball will roll it, after some time the ball will automatically stop. How comes it possible? How can the ball automatically stop? The reason behind it is Friction, yes, because friction force always apply in the opposite direction. That's why the ball has stopped. Yes, a ball rolling on the ground gradually slow down and comes to rest due to the force of friction between the ball and the ground. Yes. So that's why the force of friction which is acting between ball and ground in opposite direction, which is trying to pull the ball back, that's why the ball has stopped. So for friction is a force which opposes the motion between two relative surface. Yes. Okay, let's see some more examples. Let's try to understand the with some pictures. Let's move on the next point. So kids, as you can see in the picture, a boy is riding a bicycle. A boy is riding the bicycle because the boy is riding the bicycle on a plain and smooth road. Because the boy is riding the bicycle on a plain and smooth road, that's why the boy can easily ride it. That's why the boy can easily ride it. But if the boy will ride the bicycle in the soil, will it is it easy to ride the bicycle on the in the soil? No, you cannot ride the bicycle easily on in soil. The reason behind it is soil is a soil is a rough surface. Yes, while the road is a plain and smooth surface. It means friction depend upon for few things. Yes, friction depend upon few things. You know, when you if suppose you are riding the bicycle and if you stop applying the pedal, yes, if you stop applying the pedal, then what will happen? If you stop applying the pedal, then what will happen? Definitely the bicycle gradually slow down. Definitely the bicycle will gradually slow down and it will stop. It will stop. So whenever if there is any motion is happening, that time friction force will apply, but it will always in opposite direction. Yes, because the friction force is working, that's why the bicycle slow down and stops. As you can see the picture of the a ball, if mm, if you throw the ball, then after some time the ball on the ground, it will automatically stop. Yes, it will automatically stop. Yes, so it happens. The reason behind it is just and nothing but friction. Okay, uh, I hope you understood. Okay. Friction actually depends upon some factor. Yes, it depends upon few things. Because friction sometimes can increase, sometimes friction force can also decrease. Yes, when will the friction force decrease and when will the friction force increase? Let's find out the answer. Let's see some fact related to it. Let's move on the next point. So kids, as you can see on the screen, factors affecting the friction. Yes, friction depend upon some factor. Yes, friction, nature of the surface in contact. Point number one, nature of this. How is the nature of surface? Nature means what? Nature means maybe the surface may be flat or sliding surface maybe or smooth. Yes, depend upon it. Yes, if the surface is smooth, then what will happen? If the surface is smooth, then the friction force will decrease. Yes, you know, you is can fall if you try to run on a smooth surface. Suppose on a tile. Okay, suppose in your house, if you spread the water on the tile, if you spread the water on the tile and then if you will run, can you easily run? No, you cannot. You will slip. Why? Because the friction force has become very less. Yes, it has decreased, so it is not balancing you. That's why you slip. Okay, you can easily ride the bicycle on a slope. Why? Because the friction force has decreased. If the slope is smooth, you can easily ride your bicycle. Yes. What if the surface is hard? Yes. If the surface has hard and rough, then friction will increase. Yes. So on the hard surface, friction increase. Yes. If the slope will be hard, as you can see in the picture, if the slope is hard and rough, then the ball will go very slow and it may stop. But if it is smooth, then the ball or cylinder, as you can see in the picture, it will go fast. Yes. So on the hard surface, friction force increases, and on the smooth surface, friction force decreases. Yes. You know, when you eat whatever you eat, it goes through the food pipe. It easily go through the food pipe. But suppose if your food pipe is hard, if your food pipe has internal surface, if your food pipe has internal surface which is very rough, then what will happen? Whatever you eat, you will not able to easily eat. But our internal surface of food pipe is smooth. That's why we can easily eat. Yes, and we can easily swallow. So I hope you understood factor affecting the friction. First is nature of the surface in contact. Okay, the smoothness of the surface. If the both surface which are in contact with each other, they smooth, then the friction will automatically decrease. And if the one of the surface is having hard and rough, then the friction will definitely increase. So how hard the surface pressed together, friction is less on a smooth surface. I hope you understood that friction is more on rough surface, friction is less on smooth surface. Okay kids, now let's see some causes of friction. Okay, let's move on it. Okay kids, so causes of friction. So friction is caused due to the interlocking of irregularities between two surfaces in contact. Yes, the irregular surface, when they are interlocked, that time friction is friction works. Okay, so friction is caused due to the interlocking when two surfaces are in contact, interlocked, that time because of their irregularities between two surfaces. Okay, and a smooth surface have minute irregularities between two surfaces, while rough surface have larger irregularities between the two surfaces. Yes, remember kids, is on smooth surface will have minor irregularities. Sorry, I have written by mistake minute. It is not minute, it is minor. Okay, so remember kids, on smooth surface will always have minor irregularities. Yes, smooth surface always have minor irregularities. Yes, that's why friction automatically decrease. But on a rough surface will have larger irregularities. So when the larger irregularities have on rough surface, then friction force increases, and when the friction force increase, friction force also generate heat. Friction force also generate heat. Okay, so force of friction is more if the surface are rough. Yes, if the surface is rough, friction force is more. Yes, isn't it easy? It's very easy, you can easily memorize it. Now kids, let's see the different type of friction. Okay, um, let's move on the next point. Okay, it's types of friction. Well, there are many type of friction, but sorry, mainly there are three type of friction. Yes, uh, uh, SSR. Yes, S for static friction, S for sliding friction, and R for rolling friction. Yes, mainly there are three main type of friction. Yes, there are three main type of friction. There are three main types of friction: static friction, sliding friction, and rolling friction. Yes, static friction, sliding friction, and rolling friction. Okay, So these are three friction. So static friction, when will the static friction will apply? Right now I am in the rest position. Yes, I am sitting on the chair and I am in the rest position. So in this condition static force applies. So static friction is applied when the object is at rest. Yes, when the object is at rest, that time a force come into play, or you can say when an object is raised, that time a friction force of friction come into play, which is called static friction. Okay. Now sliding friction, when will the sliding friction will apply? If any object is sliding, yes, we know that anything will slide on a slope. Yes, around 70-degree angle, 60-degree angle, 30-degree angle. Yes, but so everything slide when that time sliding friction apply. So what will be the definition of sliding friction? So a force of friction which comes into play if an object is sliding over a surface. Yes, when the object is sliding, a force come into play which is called sliding friction. Yes, sliding friction is the friction exerted when object slide over the surface. Yes, is that very easy? Now, what is rolling friction? Yes, rolling friction actually work when any object is rolling. Yes, turning, rolling. So, when an object rolls over the surface, a force of friction come into play, which is called rolling friction. Yes, rolling friction is a friction exerted when an object roll over the surface. Yes, for your kind information, let me tell you the value of static friction is more than the value of sliding friction. Yes, because in static friction the object is at rest, so the friction force will be more, but in sliding friction the surface will definitely smooth, so sliding friction will decrease. So I can say that sliding friction is slightly less than static friction. Yes, sliding friction is less than static friction. And if I talk about the rolling friction, well, rolling friction is less than the sliding friction and static friction. Yes, so rolling friction is less than sliding friction, and sliding friction is less than static friction. Okay, remember kids, because the object can roll on rough surface also, but rough surface the friction decrease. So on the rough surface, rolling friction will automatically decrease. So the rolling friction is less than sliding friction, but the sliding friction is more than rolling friction. And okay, but um, sliding friction is less than static friction. Okay, I hope you understood. Now let's move on the next point. Okay, so look the example carefully. You can see a boy is sliding. So when the boy will slide, if force of friction will act to pull it back, because the surface is smooth, on which the boy is sliding, so friction force automatically decrease. So which force is acting during sliding? Sliding force of friction is acting. Yes, because it will decrease. That's why it cannot pull the boy back, so that's why it will come down. Yes, the boy will come down automatically, because the sliding friction is less on the sliding friction, because on the sliding surface sliding friction act. We know that what is sliding friction. Sliding friction is the friction exerted when an object slide over the surface. So the boy is sliding over the surface, sliding friction is acting, but it is not more friction. Why? Because the surface is smooth. And you can see the picture, something steel made up of utensil is actually rolling over a surface on a slope. Yes, as you can see the picture at the bottom, you can see. So what is rolling friction? We know that Rolling friction is a friction when exerted when an object roll over a surface. So the object is rolling over the surface, so it can easily roll because the surface is also smooth, but it is rolling. So in the case of rolling, rolling is not more faster than sliding. Okay, so uh, so remember kids, rolling friction is less than sliding friction. Okay, and you can see in a picture a man is trying to push a object which is actually at the rest. When any object is at the rest, that time static friction apply, and when the object is raised, that time friction increase. So which friction will increase? Static friction, because here the static friction is applying. Yes. And we know what is static friction. Static friction is a friction exerted on an object at a rest. I hope you understood. Now let's move on the next point. Okay kids, it's time to ask question from you. So question number 1 is define friction, give example. Yes, define friction and give example. So what is friction? Friction is a force which opposes the motion of an object over a surface. Friction is a force which opposes the motion of an object over the surface, or I can say friction is a force which tries to oppose the motion between two relative surfaces. For example, a ball rolling on a ground gradually slow down and comes to the rest due to the force of friction between ball and ground. Okay. Now question number 2 is uh, write the causes, and factor. Write the causes and factor which affect the friction. Yes, write the causes and factors which affect the friction. Yes, so what are the causes? So friction is caused due to interlocking of irregularities between the two surfaces in contact. Yes, friction is caused due to the interlocking of irregularities between the two surfaces. Yes. Okay. So smooth surface have minor irregularities, and between the two surfaces, while the rough surface have larger irregularities. Okay, remember friction is caused due to the interlocking of irregularities of the surface. So smooth surface always have minor irregularities, while the rough surface have larger irregularities. And friction depend upon the some factor. So which factor friction depend? So friction depend upon the nature of the surface in contact. Yes, nature of the surface in contact. Yes, means if the surface is smooth, then friction will increase. And second point is it depends that how hard the surface press together. Yes, how hard the surface press together. Yes, if the surface are pressing too hard, then the friction will increase, because on the rough surface friction always increase. Okay, I hope you understood. Okay, so now question number 3 is how many type types of friction, and write their definition. Write their definition. Okay, write their definition. So how many types of friction? So there are mainly 3 type of friction. Yes, there are mainly 3 type of friction: static friction, sliding friction, and rolling friction. Yes, static friction, sliding friction, and rolling friction. So what is static friction? Static friction is a friction. Static friction is a friction which exert when an object is at rest. Yes, static friction is a friction which exerted when an object is at a rest. And sliding friction, what is sliding friction? Sliding friction is a friction which exerted when an object slide over a surface. Yes, And what is rolling friction? Rolling friction is a friction exerted when an object roll over the surface. Remember kids, sliding friction is always less than static friction, and but sliding friction is more than rolling friction. Okay, it means rolling friction is less than sliding friction. I hope you understood. Now we will meet in next class and we will study some uses and when the friction become undesirable. Okay, and many more topic. Okay, so we'll meet in next class. Till then, do study. Till then, bye bye.